Hey, good day, everybody. Still here. Daily Market Pulse. It's Thursday, July 17th. So just as the Dow was making new highs yesterday, shazam, whack, whack. They fall sharply. They intensified as the day went on after a fairly soft open. We remain under pressure. In fact, it's possible we could be in a correction, but quite frankly, we're not at levels I don't think right now that have sold off enough and broken lows well enough to be there. But we'll look at the charts and we'll have to maybe reevaluate by tonight or tomorrow morning. So distribution day counts goes up because volume was just ever so slightly higher than yesterday. And of course, percentage wise, we were substantially lower. Let's go back to the Dow. I had the TSX up there just briefly. There's the sharp decline. There's the bear sash. See the essentially a spinning top on a Tuesday, a move with a new high and new high close, but it was essentially a polarity right across 17,070, and so we flushed through that into through the 8, now into 20. There is a window right below here, so there's room to that plus slightly lower still, and I'll show you the treasuries as well later. There's a point where there's not much room left for potential. There's room to the upside still for treasuries, which means there's still room to the downside, but there's not much on either side necessarily. But there's still room to go to the downside. As you can see, it's back to that old polarity area at even just right at about 17,000 as well. So that's the Dow, one of the strongest of all. S&P was kind of going sideways. It never quite cleared the upper Bollinger Band, never quite cleared 1985. Dark cloud cover, not very convincing. Yesterday, sure enough, went up and higher, but never really closed much higher either. So fairly soft yesterday. Then today, whack, whack. So back to the recent lows of the last week or so, with room to the 50, room down to 1925 to 1930. That's the drop we're looking for right now. Maybe even 1940, where the 50-day moving average is right now. So that's fairly strong looking. Now you've got more volatility on the NASDAQ. It went higher, dropped aggressively to the pivot of 4350, back up to 4450, could not break after three consecutive attempts. And then back down below the 8, below the 20, back toward 4350, and here we are. That's the target. That's where it struck. That's where it is. Below that, you're looking at 4300. That's the 50-day moving average, and that's quite possible. Stochastic's not oversold yet, so that's why I'm thinking this could drop to 4,300 fairly quickly, fairly easily. TSX I had a minute ago on the screen, but I don't think that was today's candle. I think that was yesterday's still. I don't think the data's in yet. Well, I guess it is. I thought for some reason I saw this lower earlier, but that is today. Okay, so sideways, I would be expecting this to drop. I'm sure it's going to follow suit here, and you're going to see this drop below levels of say 15 into 15,000 probably on the downside toward the 50-day moving average. That would be my expectation. It could still go higher, but I'm noting that gold is higher, silver is higher, oil is higher, and yet TSX nowhere. So something substantially lower to hold this at bay, which is kind of weird. The DAX ordinarily follows suit and vice versa. We follow them, they follow us, and so consequently into the moving averages and back to 9,900 and dropping. And that's where we are. Let's see here. And then we have the US dollar, Canadian dollar. So that was up and sideways and still looking strong to go higher as well toward 108.35. Usually if this goes up, the euro is down. Sure enough, back to a support level and just testing that 135, 135 and a quarter area currently. Treasuries I mentioned earlier was into the 137 mark. It went even higher into 138, now shooting for 139. It hit and closed above 138 so far into the Bollinger Band, looking for 139 and possibly higher. So that's showing strength, which means the markets are likely to go lower. Japanese yen is still sort of hanging in the balance. It's holding the moving averages, having still trouble clearing 99, but still looks strong enough overall with the rising lows to do so. So I'm looking for the likelihood here that that will break to the upside to 99, 99 and a half, and possibly higher. Gold, as I mentioned, dropped two consecutive days, then paused, but had a huge day to the upside, back toward 1320. In fact, we don't see it here for whatever reason. Don't know why, but if I take it to a intraday, you're going to see the big, big, big push. So And this, I guess there's turmoil overseas, and typically when there's you're looking for safe haven, gold and silver become those places for money to go hide. For a while there, that wasn't happening, but it looks like they're back to their old tricks. There it is right there. There's the pop on gold. So now we look at silver, and silver will maybe not show the signal, the sign, the candle either. So there's the thrust again into 2130. So yep, looking for 2150, then 22 on the upside. And as I mentioned, crude had sold off a fair amount, found some support and bounced, and so there was the bull stash yesterday, and a huge thrust higher into that 104.50 region, very close. It hit 103 was the target. Well, 102 was the initial target. 103 was the next target. It went that and blew through that as well. And now looking for 104.50 at this point on the upside. Small caps. Small caps fell through the 114. It had 3 out of 5 sessions where it was holding 114 and just barely hanging on to the 50-day moving average, and it just could not hold on anymore. So it flushed through. Now we're looking at 111 and a half. Below that, 108. On the way back up, 114, 116. If it has any chance of doing so. The VIX was massive because of the fear. Huge thrust to the upside. Went through the window, went through the $12, $12.50 range, 13, 14, and went all the way to 15. So a $4 rise on the VIX based on that news. And still room to 17 and 18 with the markets as they are right now. We're likely to see a flush and this probably pop a little bit. If it pauses at all, we're looking for another flush right afterwards into these levels a little bit higher above.